This is Dance Studio 411, where we answer your real life questions about your toughest studio life predicaments, parent problems, teacher turnover, student challenges, policy dilemmas, and so much more. Let's talk about what's keeping you awake at night and what you can do about it. Here are your hosts, Suzanne Blake Garrity and Jill Terone.
Welcome to this episode of the Dance Studio 411 podcast. I'm Jill Terone, and today we are digging into a corner of the dance world that doesn't always get the spotlight, but absolutely should. Park District and Community Center programs serve thousands of dancers across the country, and you'll want to listen today to hear tips to help build real connection with students, with families, and with the wider community. My guest is Lora Vodicka, and she knows this world inside and out. She grew up in a Park District program, started teaching there at 16, and later went on to found Innovation Arts Connection, a traveling studio that partners with local park districts to bring progressive, studio quality programs into community spaces. She's built a reputation for rock-solid classroom management, creative curriculum design, and crystal clear communication with families. And she's here to share what actually works. In our conversation, we get into the practical side of running inclusive, sustainable programs. We discuss how to set up expectations and communicate with families so they feel informed and engaged, teaching tools that keep classes fun, structured, and connected, even when students pop in with different levels, abilities, backgrounds, and schedules, and budget-friendly performance ideas that still feel really meaningful, memorable, and create magic. So whether you work in a private studio, a park district, or something in between, you'll walk away today with ideas to build stronger relationships, boost retention, and create a real sense of community in your program. Let's get started. Hi, Lora. I'm so glad you're here today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to chat about park districts and community centers and all of that.
Yeah, and what I love about the conversation that we're going to have today is that this is really transferable and really extends into any studio environment. So even though you are really specialized in the community centers and park districts in particular, we're going to share great insight on how this can really apply to a studio owner who is in more of a traditional studio as well. So first, before we get into all of that, why don't you, in your own words, tell us about your journey, your background, and how you got to be where you are today?
Yeah, so my dance journey actually started at a park district, the West Chicago Park District here in the Chicagoland area that I'm currently working at now with my business. So I started there when I was very young. My dance teacher ended up opening a private studio and I transitioned over there. But my mom worked in park districts. She's a third grade teacher who, when we were young, she took a part-time position teaching like tumbling and early childhood classes. So I grew up going to her classes, helping her out, assisting. My first job ever was with my studio partnering with a park district. So I worked at a couple of Chicagoland park districts at the age of 8 or no, probably 16 actually. And then I went to school to study theater. Very quickly learned that the part of theater that I loved was dance. So got kind of back into that. I worked in private studios for a while after I graduated, and I just always kept going back to the park districts and feeling like that was my home. Also feeling like there was a huge gap in just a need for what park districts could offer. I think sometimes there's funding, there's lack of knowledge, there's in some ways a little bit lack of respect for what we do as dance educators and how powerful our classes can be. So I really started thinking about how can I fill that gap as an educator, as, you know, a dance teacher, but also someone who had some experience with developing programs and things like that. So I started a traveling dance studio that focuses primarily with park districts, but also with libraries and community centers in the area. We do not have a brick and mortar. We travel around to different districts and we partner with them and with their communities to design programs that meet the recreational needs of the people in the community. And then that's where I've kind of been the last like 7 years. I've really been perfecting that and focusing in on those communities. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's really awesome because I've talked to you at length too. Learning about park districts is something that was new to me. It's not something that we have here in Western New York and in my area. So why don't you talk a little bit more before we jump into some of the strategies that you have, because we're going to talk about communication and retention strategies and performances when it comes to working specifically with park districts and community centers. But for those of us that really don't understand the park district setup and what it actually is, let's touch on that real fast first, and then we'll dive into how you have crafted this, because like you said, you have really developed your retention strategies, your communication strategies, and the things that really matter to the families that are part of these districts.
Yeah. So I live in outside of Chicago, in a suburb about 45 minutes west of the city. And here in Chicagoland area specifically, we have a really amazing park district network that is honestly very special and very unique. So our park districts are not all the time, but usually separate from a government building. But what you probably see in your area and what around the country is what a park district is more of like the TV show Parks and Rec, where their recreation department is within a city and it's funded with city money. And sometimes I've worked with a few of those in the Chicagoland area. It can be a little more challenging because it has to go through more loops, and a lot of times they're not as expansive. What you might also identify with in other states and other areas of the country would be like a YMCA program. Or, like, I know my husband's family is out in Michigan and they've got a big community center that is the closest I would imagine to a park district in our area. I also partner with libraries, which we're all very familiar with, and that's a great avenue that hopefully we'll have time today to kind of speak on as well, because I think those go hand in hand as well. Did that answer your question, by the
Yeah.
way?
Oh, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
what that does is it tees us up for really what we're going to start to talk about, and that's how to manage the families, the students, and you have a little bit of a unique situation. So explain to us first and foremost, do the park districts handle the registration? Are you responsible for it? How does that work? Because retention strategies, whether you're in a community center, park district, library, or a traditional studio, it's really what we need to be doing and focusing on that. So let's talk about that first, and then we'll dive into some of your communication strategies.
Yes, and I will start by saying there are a lot of different ways that you can do a partnership. So what I do is I am a contractor. So the park district, I'm not an employee of the park district. They hire my business to run their classes in their facility. So they do handle registration, which there's good and bad to all of this. Jill knows that I've talked about this before, and sometimes it can be a nightmare. I've been dealing with that the last couple weeks, but overall, it's nice because at the end of the day, if something goes wrong with registration, I can go, you know what? You have to talk to the park district. I actually don't handle that side of it. So, as much as there are complications that I can't control, I also don't have to I have to stress about it, but not in a like it's my fault kind of way, if that makes sense. So all of my registration for the most part goes through the park district, and people would sign up through their website. I provide, materials with, time, day, location. For my business, provide a whole promotional package for them as well to help them promote and make sure the correct information gets into their system. And then we have a relationship where, we check numbers with them, rosters, they provide us that information, and I run it through my own system to make sure I'm organized with all of that. And then, like I said earlier in the episode, I don't have a physical space, so I truly travel. I don't have a brick and mortar studio. So all of my classes are housed within either a park district community center, a library. Right now, and I don't know how much we want to get into this, but I'm exploring some different connections with businesses in my community that have physical spaces that aren't necessarily dance studios, but they could maybe do a promotional class that would get people to funnel into my classes. So all of those happen in other people's spaces, which again, there's positives and negatives because I don't get to control how they clean and how they organize everything, but I don't have to worry about that either. So when something breaks, I don't, that's on them. I don't have to clean toilets. I don't, so there's a lot of positives and negatives to those situations.
There is something to be said about not having to clean your toilets. That's amazing. So my question then too, a little bit of a going back in what you said, when you provide the information to them, it sounds like you give them a whole packet. Do you promote as well? Meaning, do you do
Yes.
anything so you don't solely rely on them to do
No.
promotion and fill your classes?
Absolutely not. I love my Park District connections, but they have, like, especially us in Chicagoland, they've got, I believe there are sometimes up to like 50-page packet brochure of sports classes, preschool, aftercare, senior classes. I mean, we've got, again, really great park districts in our area that do so much for our community. So I partner with somebody on their staff, and a lot of times these people, especially in smaller districts, which is what I specialize in, they're doing the job of like three people. So I try to make it as easy as possible for them. I tell them, here are all the things you need to know. Here are videos that you can post on your TVs if you want. Here's a flyer you can print out that has QR codes that go back to our website with information. Here is a coloring sheet that you can leave out on the desks at your park district or pass out at your park district's preschool with info. And then I do a lot of my own promotional things via social media, via Wix emails, via just regular old Google emails, texting, all that kind of stuff. So I try, because again, I see it as my partnership, I'm getting paid per student. So I want to max those classes out because at minimum, I want to hit the minimum. So I'm making what I need to make. But at maximum, I want to get them close to max so that these park districts see the value. They make some money off of it. I make what I need to make. And then we're able to fund those programs even more and do more with it. So I really push what I'm doing because I know there's only so much that they can do with all of the other programs they need to promote.
That's amazing. So really you're doing all the work, so to speak, when it comes to putting together the descriptions, the social media pushes, all of the things that a regular studio owner, and I hate to use that word regular, more of the traditional brick and mortar studio owner does, but really you just aren't necessarily then handling the facility or the registration software per se. Interesting. Great. So that's perfect. I love that. And you sound like you're extremely organized, which I know you are because we've talked about this. When you do this, what is the best way to provide the information to the families after registration?
Yeah, so you're talking about families who are currently enrolled or prospective families?
So you do a great job. You put all the information out there. They register through the Park District website and their platform, and now they're enrolled. What happens next? Because
So
we
email is our best friend.
okay, email's your
Um,
best friend.
yeah,
Perfect.
and I think, we've talked about this on our monthly calls. Like, not everybody does email, but in my realm, that's the easiest tool because I don't have an office person sitting at a desk 24/7. So we do have a phone number, but like I check it only a couple times a week. So email is, I always tell my parents right up front, email, email, email. That's the best way to reach us. That's where you're going to get the quickest response. And that's the tool that we use the most for communication. So I work with a virtual assistant. And so she'll send, the two of us work together to put like promotional emails that are mapped out like 6 weeks in advance. So she'll send those through Wix. We also then send emails directly from our Google or Gmail account, so that again, we see that some parents will answer more to those because they feel a little bit more personal than the general one that we can design and look pretty on Wix. So the personal ones, we do a welcome email the week prior to classes starting with all the class information. We link to our Nimbly to say get your class attire. There's links to our website with like the calendar of the year, all that kind of stuff. We do a 3-week check-in email that is basically just we hope you're enjoying class. Do you have any questions? Da da da. We do some emails when we have family observation reminders, or if we have like days off, like an email went out last week because we don't have class for Thanksgiving this week. And then we do a post-session thank you email. So that goes out about a week after classes. That's where we ask for testimonials or to fill out our eval. And we just generally do a big thank you. And oh, by the way, the next session starts on this day. Don't forget to register. So those are our best ways to communicate. We also do a lot with social media. I will be the first to admit that I'm not the best at social media, and I'm actually working with a different business coach right now who's given me some great tips on how to improve that. But we put a lot of different things through social media. My virtual assistant and I have a Trello that we set up monthly where I give her ideas of what needs to be done. She comes up with some different things. And then all of those images we also utilize on our website. We utilize in the newsletters so we can kind of cross promote some of those images. She even sends directly to the park districts if they want to post on their social media. So those would be our biggest touch points. The other thing, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, don't lose your train of thought on that. I was just going to say how your systems really set you up for success.
Yeah, Trello has been amazing. I need to give a shout out to Jen. I'm picturing her face, Randall.
Jennifer Randall.
Jennifer Randall. She was the one who got me hooked on Trello social media, like using a whole Trello board on social media to plan out how each week looks. So I use her method. It's fabulous. It was very helpful. So I'm going to give her credit for that. The other thing I was going to say, and I actually feel like I don't think this is necessarily more important because emails are very important and getting communication out is also very important. What I find even more valuable and more vital for the people that I work with is that in-person connection. So with all of my districts, I'm in a shared space. So some of them I can decorate and have permanent things. There's other ones that the room has to go back to neutral when I leave. So I use a call board type system where I have a laminated piece of paper that says announcements and a laminated piece of paper that says skills and concepts. And then I write on there with dry erase marker that gets posted with sticky tack on the door. And then it's got anything that is coming up, like a traditional call board on there. And then the skills that class worked on that day, I usually pick one or two. The concept that they're focused on, because we monthly change our concept and have that on there as well. Or if there's like, hey, we finished our recital routine or, whatever they're working on in class. So number one, they have all the important information, but number two, they're seeing the value that their child is getting in class. And then they can go, oh, I see on here that it says this word that I don't know how to say this. And then your kid can come out and say, jeté, we worked on grand jetés. That means big leap. And they can see that their child is learning. It's giving them language to talk to their kid about their activity. And then they can see it's not babysitting. It's not just running around doing freeze dance. We're actually learning not only skills, but valuable movement concepts that are going to help them all over. Now, the key to all of that is that when you get out of the classroom, your instructor, before they let the kids run out the door, they have a conversation with the parents. Hey, families, today we learned da-da-da-da-da. We worked on this concept, da-da-da-da-da. Here are the announcements that we have for this week. There's no class coming up next week due to Thanksgiving. Our last class is coming up on this day. Right now I'm pushing registration. Registration opens up this day. You want to make sure you get registered. That one-on-one connection is so important because I've noticed for my families, I don't have like an office area where they can sit and wait for their kid and read all the flyers. So me saying that points out the announcements. It's a time where I can be like, and don't forget to check your email because we just sent an elaborate version of this. And I just think because everyone is so busy and there's so many things that they're getting, that has been so valuable to me. So I make a point every single class to save the last 2 minutes, 1 minute to have that conversation with parents.
And
Last, oh yeah, go ahead.
you have an advantage because of where you are, and the families have to come in to retrieve their student, their child. For the brick and mortar freestanding studio that may not even have lobby space, that's
Right.
where you're emailing and that's where your touch points come in. Maybe a quick video, I'm thinking, just to have that touch point. It's not one-on-one, but we know that there are a lot of studio owners out there that either wish they could have lobby space and don't, or really just do not want the lobby space, especially post COVID. They cut that out and they're finding different ways. But I know how valuable the connection is, like you're mentioning, but unfortunately, due to some space limitations and the way that other studios are just picked up, they can pick up outside and drop off and go that way. We lose that connection. So yeah.
Well, something I'm not, knock on wood, I'm only in like week 3 of doing this, but a different organization that I follow that has nothing to do with dance, but they weekly do just like hold up their camera video. Hey, this is unedited, unpolished. Here's what you need to know for this week.
Exactly.
And so I've been trying that on social media. Again, I don't feel like my current participants always consistently follow or watch my social media. So I'm kind of playing with like, is this need to be an email? Is this on social media? Because I don't necessarily need to see my prospective students don't need to see that. But so I'm still playing with that. But I do think the video from feedback I've gotten from parents, it's like when they see your face, they're like, oh, this is important, and they'll actually pay attention to it. And I've noticed that some of my kids who are old enough to have social media, they'll actually watch it and then they'll tell their parents because I have that issue that you were saying with parents coming into the lobby with my tweens and teens because we don't require the parents to come in anymore. And
Mhm.
most of them will just run out to the parking lot and get in the car, and I don't see their parents for the entire year. So yeah.
And that's where I think something too, if somebody's using an app like Band or you have an app through your platform, which you don't have, but that's where you could post those videos to the already enrolled parents and
Yeah.
families and students.
Band is a great idea because I do use Band, especially during recital season, to post choreography videos. So that's actually, thank you for giving me that tip. I might try to utilize that during recital time and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Um,
Anything that's visual, we know that that works.
yes. The last thing I was going to say, and this might be helpful to people who don't have lobby space. I do a one sheet at the beginning of every session. So it's one piece of paper. Um, it has, depending on what's coming up in the session, the recital session obviously has a lot more. But depending on, where you're at, it's got all the important dates. It's got a QR code that goes to our website. It's got all the important like email addresses. We do a QR code to our Nimbly shop. I think I even this year put a QR code to our request a free trial and put like a tell your friend to try class. We put the park district's contact info on there too, because if it's registration stuff, they're going to need to contact so and so at the park district. And then we print that on a really bright colored piece of paper, hand it out on the first day, and I tell parents we highly recommend you hang this on your refrigerator or put this in your like special folder so you can refer back to it. And we shoot that in that welcome email as well. So it's an attachment in that email. So ideally, they keep that and can reference back to that. And it's posted on our website. So if they lose the other two things,
Yeah. And as a parent, I appreciate that. Whenever a bright piece of paper comes back to me or comes to me through the school or the studio or wherever it is, I know that it's important. So that's a really good tip. So you're segueing right into one of our other points, and that's talking about like classroom strategies. So, Laura, when we talk about your classes, you already mentioned that they're learning vocabulary. There's a structure to it. There are things that they're achieving and goals that they're reaching. What can we talk about when it comes to classroom strategies, maybe a little bit about your curriculum. Are you free to do basically your expertise is coming into play as the studio owner, and you're really just utilizing the park district for their facilities. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I'm really lucky that I work with some really amazing people at all the districts that I partner with that 100% respect me as an educator and as a dancer and let me do my thing within reason, because obviously, like, there are certain things that we need to communicate together with. There's some individuals at districts who like want some more input and would like to, suggest different things, especially when it comes to like extra stuff like doing an event or things like that and partnering with them. But for the most part, our partnership and we've got some different contracts, that's the word, agreements that we fill out ahead of time that I very clearly put in there, like I will do my curriculum, my expertise, and they put that in there too. Like I have to uphold a certain level and standard in order to work with them. So, but yeah, I get to plan my curriculum. It is, I will say, can be very challenging. Not so much for early childhood, but once you get into like your like third grade and up, I will have, because again, Park District model, we are inclusive. We accept all types of kids, all skill levels, all abilities. We do have a leveled system, but because I work with smaller districts, it is more age-based than it is level. I do overlap a little bit because I do think there are prime ages where like there can be drastic maturity differences depending on what grade you're in and your age and your background. But I do like this year, my oldest group, which is like my sixth grade and above, very different in skill level and experience and where they're at. It is, I can't tell you that I have a perfect system for it because every year it is adapting and meeting them where they're at. So I think my biggest tip for that is that have a lot of plans in place. I have a very set routine because the other thing that I'm working with is I don't have the kids 3 days a week doing ballet. Some of them I only see once a week. And so it's not the most ideal situation for teaching advanced dance, but my goal is to give them an appreciation of dance,
Right.
keep their body moving, keep them inspired so that if they really love this, then they maybe move on to one of the great private studios in our area. Or they stick with it because they just want another activity to do that's fun to be with their friends that gets their body moving. So the goals are different. And I think going into that, knowing that the goals are different is important than having a very set routine. That I think needs to be personalized to you as an educator. I have a way that I like to run my classes. Having specific skills that you want to focus on. I do skills charts and we do like skills assessments and then they get a little like I modeled it after swim lessons back in the day. Like they have a little checklist. I have a little system for either a check or a circle or a star that kind of tells them, doesn't meet, meets, exceeds. And then they get little notations at the bottom from the teacher that are mostly positive, but maybe there's like, yeah, they're doing really good, but they need to work on focusing in class, and that goes to them at the end of every session with a recommendation on what class to sign up for. So all of those things kind of help you stay in check. But at the end of the day, you have to have that plan and then be very, 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 very flexible.
Yes, be a little what's that saying? Rigid in your approach, but flexible, or rigid in your something and then flexible in your approach. So making sure
So
that
challenging.
yeah, well, and I love that you focused on the goals and how they're different, or maybe your classes are a little bit more varied in abilities because it is very age based on the enrollment for where you are. Um, I think we covered a lot. When it comes to one of the questions I had was tailoring your lessons to to those groups that might have different abilities or different ages and different ranges when it comes to their skill levels. So I'm glad we covered that. Can we move into a little bit about performance opportunities now? So we know that a very traditional studio will have either an end of year recital, or maybe they even do a winter performance, or that tends to be very, very specific and traditional. What about performance opportunities and community opportunities for your studio in the park districts?
Yeah, so I will be honest, I change it up a lot. And I have, again, not found a perfect system, but I've tried a lot of different things and they all can work. I think I'll tell you what we're doing right now this year. So we do session base, because again, working with districts, it is not the easiest method to go monthly enrollment. So they like to have, you pay for this chunk of classes. Maybe there's a payment plan, but like you're signing up to do these classes from this time to this time, and then it's done. Okay. So I traditionally have a fall session that runs September through December, and then I have a winter spring session for my recital classes, which I call Park Studio. Those go January all the way through the beginning of June that end in a recital. Or I've got two seasonal classes. Those are all my DiscoverDance early childhood classes. And those are two shorter sessions within that session, like a winter one and a spring one. And then I've got a summer session. So our fall session for the park studio classes, those are the ones that are more older kids. They want to do recital. They want the performance element. They have in the fall a family participation day, which happens right before Halloween. That was new that I tried this year, and it was amazing. I highly recommend that everybody do it. We had the parents come in for the entire class, which I know can be really nerve-wracking for your teachers. And we made the parents dance with us, even with the older kids. And I told the older kid, well, even the younger kids, I told them, you are also teachers today, and you have to help your parents out. And we had moments where, the parents had to show them the skills and the kids had to, critique them and what. I mean, it was great. It was super fun. I think parents really, again, it showed them an appreciation for what we do and that we aren't just babysitters running around doing freeze dance the whole time. I had so many parents be like, wow, I didn't realize how much you actually do in class. So anyways, that's our mid-session family participation. And then we will have a last day of class in class holiday performance. So it's during their regular scheduled time. It's the last like half of their class, the parents will come in. So they'll come in, they'll warm up, they'll practice, and then we'll do a show. During the show, they have a little routine that they've learned. And then we usually do either like an across the floor obstacle course for the younger kids. The older kids are going to show some different like traveling exercises across the floor. Sometimes with the older kids too, I will let them pick like a skill they want to show off because again, I've got varied levels. So some kids are really good at one skill and other kids are not so good. So in those situations, sometimes I will have them, okay, you choose a skill that you want to show off one-on-one. Those this year, because all of my dance studios end up feeling so crammed when we do these because they're not the biggest, we are going into like either event spaces or a gym to do them. So I rented out, and I shouldn't say rented because the park district didn't charge me money for it, but I requested to use the gym at one of my districts for this day. I'm going to put light decorations up. I'm going to bring my step and repeat. So then we'll do the little performance thing. We'll have the bleachers so then they can bring grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles and not feel crammed. We'll have a time to take a class picture. I'm going to bring some like cookies and granola bars from Costco, and we'll save the last 10 minutes to kind of socialize, celebrate. My dad is coming dressed up as you know who. I don't know how many kids are listening, so I won't say it out loud, but he's going to come and be a special guest at our event to greet and take pictures. And then I usually give like a little holiday ornament or gift. So we're trying to make them a little extra special and more elevated than just a regular family observation. My Discover dance classes that are seasonal, they will just do a traditional family observation. I still try to make a really big deal about it because at that level that those kids anytime anybody's watching them, it's a performance, right? So we'll still do some extra special things and elevate it and make it magical. But, once they get a little older, they want to have more performances. So then in the spring, we'll do the family observation. I don't know if I'm going to do participation this year mid-session, but we'll for sure do at least an observation mid-session. That's also the time for the park studio classes that participate in recital, that I do a big like meeting about recital, and we cover, because that usually happens right before spring break, we cover everything coming up on the pipeline in April and May that lead up to recital. Um, and then we'll do another family observation, the last class before their recital. That's kind of like a pre-dress rehearsal.
Right.
And another great time to, when the parents are in the classroom, give them all the reminders for the recital. I do even another handout with everything, all the times they need to know listed. And then we'll do our big recital, and we do it at a high school in the area, and I combined most of my districts into one recital. So everybody's kind of coming together as a community. Um, Now, with that being said, in past years, I have done shows, either spring recitals or holiday shows within the community center, utilizing either a gym or an event space. We very quickly grew out of that, but it can be done, especially if you have not that many classes. So when I first started at a couple of my districts, I only had like 3 classes. So we did, 3 routines. I brought in my older kids from another studio who are part of like a little dance company that does outside things and competitions. So I brought them in as older dancers to beef up the show and make it at least a half an hour. Also show parents like, look, your dancer could one day be this, and have some inspiration for the kids, because when you do community center shows, the kids are all sitting there watching. So that's a really great like promotional tool. And then in those spaces, I still try to create a lot of magic. You can do a lot with what your district already has. Most of them will have some kind of speaker, so you don't have to rent that. My one district, they have an event space where they've got not like a, curtain, but they've got those ones that are kind of on poles that just cover up the background so it looks a little fancier. So they set all that up for me. They have chairs and tables and things like that. And then I do a lot of things like balloons because you can get them pretty cheap. I use the dollar store balloons. They look fabulous. I have supplemented them with some stuff from Michael's. I've also have some great connections with other studios in the area, and I have borrowed old things that they've used or rented from them. There's a lot that you can get at like Oriental Trading, like those cardboard setup things. I got a Mickey Mouse one this year because we did a Disney themed recital. And then what was I going to say about that too? I've also in the past, if you don't have a budget for costumes, I've done a t-shirt and then they just provide their own black pants. Or I've done like your uniform for class, your black leotard and your tights. And then I have like a set of wrap skirts that I got on Nimbly when they went on sale one year. And then they borrow my wrap skirts. And then I've kept them and used them over and over for different little things. So there's a lot of things that you can do that aren't super expensive, super over the top, but parents still really appreciate it and it still creates magic. And I think
Yeah.
that's the big thing, is like you need to decide where your money's going to go to create that extra sparkle and make every kid, but also every family member feel special, belonged, appreciated, and heard. And that is the biggest thing. And we didn't quite get into this but that was something I wrote in a different topic when we were brainstorming, was that, I think that's the biggest thing, is that especially when you're working with recreational families, that, dance might not be something that they're going to do forever. And this might be just an activity that they're like, hey, I just need to get my kid out of the house. I need something for them to do. And they kind of stumbled into it. You need to make them feel special. And little non-expensive things go such a long way. just with those little connections. I mean, I can go into my list if you want me to, Jill, but like, I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's important no matter what studio you're at, but especially when you're with rec kids, that like a lot of them, especially like my third graders who start when they're in third grade and half their friends are at the fancy studio down the street and they're doing competitions every weekend. And I've got this girl who's like, I want to dance, but I've never done it before. You still need to make her feel really great and really special and really brave for coming. So I've had a
Absolutely.
tangent. I'm really sorry that went way,
No, and
way off.
I'm
But
so that's actually I'm so glad that your conversation did go that direction because what you do, Laura, and what is so special about you is something that's near and dear to my heart and so many people that I speak with and really connect with, and that's inclusion. We want everybody to feel very special and included. And what you do in the park districts and what you've done in your career is really provide an opportunity for every person that wants to dance and experience the joy of movement to be able to do that. So, honestly, I think that's a great way to wrap this podcast up. And our conversation today is how special it is to provide an opportunity for somebody that may not be able to dance otherwise for whatever limitation to be able to come into your district and to your classes and feel special. You provide not only a great structure to your classes when they're in session, but then opportunities for them to feel incredibly brave and strong and put on a performance.
yeah. And I want to give credit because I will say that I think I said the line of like making magic or making, which I have to give Suzanne credit because I saw her speak. This was a million years ago in Chicago UDMAs. And I don't even know if she would have probably been with dance studio owner, but she was speaking, and one of her things was, the class might have even been, how do you make magic in your class? And that has really stuck with me. And one of her suggestions was send a birthday card to all of your students. It's so easy because I get them pre-printed. I design them on Canva. They've got our logo on there. So it's not promotional, but it has our logo on there. So it reminds them because I'll send a card to kids who are in class and then they get a sticker or they get a coupon to we've got a juice shop at one of our communities. So she gives me like little 10% off coupons. So the big girls get the coupon. The little kids get a birthday sticker I find on Amazon. And then,
Perfect.
but I'll still send a version of that in a postcard to kids who have not danced with us that year, but maybe danced last year. And I will get people, oh my gosh, Miss Laura, thank you for remembering my birthday. I'm like, it doesn't take that long. It's such a small thing. So Suzanne brought that up in a thing years ago, and I've done that. And those little things make them feel special, but they're also a great promotional tool. And they're so like they're not hard, like
Yeah,
and
it just takes a little time and effort to set up the calendar and make sure that you're getting them out and do it. But yeah, and the kids love to actually get mail. It makes it so
yes,
fun.
yes. And they'll sometimes wear the sticker to class, and like the parents will be like, oh, I can't believe you did that. And again, to me it feels so easy, but it's like little tiny things like that like, yeah, there's a little bit of extra effort, but once you get the system set up, it's not that hard. That's a task you can easily give to somebody else if you've got a bigger staff. I do them because I don't have a very big staff, but they are kind of fun too because then you know whose birthday's coming up and you can remember it in class. And so just those little things. But anyways, I wanted to make sure that I gave Suzanne
Yes.
credit because that has really stuck with me. And a lot of my decisions go back to like, is this creating magic? Is this making someone feel special? Is this including someone? And I think it kind of goes back to that little spark. And I've heard other people talk about that too, but I really do think, especially for recreational and for, again, I specialize in early childhood, the magic is important for the kids and for the families.
Oh, absolutely. So, on that note, Laura, I thank you so much for your time and talent. We've talked about this that we could create a podcast or a session for hours on end because of your wealth of knowledge and all the great things that you do. So, thanks for spending this time with us today. Thank you for all of the amazing learning opportunities because you've really perfected your systems. And if you haven't, you're willing to try and do different things, which is always so fun.
Yeah. Well, isn't that what it's all about? That's what I think teaching is about. I
It
don't
is.
have any new ideas. I'm just taking other people's ideas and making them my own. And I truly believe that's like art in general, right? Like we're just perfecting on our ideas and other people and continuing to grow and explore and be open to new things.
And make the magic happen.
Amen.
Thanks, Lora.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dance Studio 411. Visit us online at dancestudio411.com for more great resources and to submit a question for a future episode. Our number one goal is to help you build a successful dance studio business and keep your passion for dance alive.